Hey, what's up guys, DarkArmedDuelist Integrity doing a Master Duel Sacred Beast deck profile. So I'm really excited for you guys because this deck is an amazing deck in Master Duel, being able to play all sorts of extremely powerful floodgates while also making some incredibly powerful monsters like Raviel, Haman, and Uriah. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards like in your name, script, every single video, getting a signed card sent in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron, along with test hands. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Raviel, Lord of Phantasm. This card is a great boss monster for the deck. It has the ability it cannot be normal summon or set. It must be special summon for your hand by attributing 3 fiend monsters from your field. And each time your opponent normal summons a monster, you get to special summon a Phantasm token to your side of the field that is a Fiend Dark level 1, 1000 attack, 1000 defense token. But it can't declare an attack. And then once per turn, you can attribute a monster, and this card gains attack equal to attributed monster's original attack until the end of the turn, which is a really good effect because this card can get absolutely massive. We then play a single copy of Simmering Scraper. Simmering Scraper is a really good one-of in this build. It has the ability it cannot be normal summoned or set. It must be special summoned from your hand by attributing 3 monsters. And you can only use each of the following effects this card once per turn. That quick effect, you can discard this card and then target one Raviel, Lord of Phantasms that you control, and for the rest of the turn, its attack becomes double its current attack. Also, it can attack all monsters that your opponent controls once each, making it super easy to go in for game with your copy of Raviel. And if this card's in the graveyard, you can attribute a monster to add this card back to your hand, which is a great effect to make this card a use over and over again. We then play 2 copies of Haman, Lord of Striking Thunder. Haman is a really good 2-of in the deck. They can't be normal summoned or set. It must be special summoned for your hand by sending 3 face-up continuous spells that you control to the graveyard. And if this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, you inflict 1000 points of damage to your opponent. And while this card is face-up in defense position, monsters that your opponent controls cannot target monsters for attacks except for this one. And this card will be sitting in defense with 4000 defense points, making it extremely hard to get over. We then play a single copy of Uriah. Uriah is just a one-of in this build. With the ability it cannot be normal summoned or set, it must be special summoned from your hand by sending 3 face-up trap cards that you control to the graveyard. And this card gains 1000 attack for each continuous trap in your graveyard. And then once per turn, you can target a set spell or trap that your opponent controls and destroy that target, but neither player can activate spells or trap cards in response to this card's activation. Now this card is really good in this deck because you play a lot of continuous trap cards to make this card absolutely massive. We then play 3 copies of Dark Summoning Beast. Dark Summoning Beast is a great 3-of with the ability that you can attribute this card to special summon out either a Uriah, Haman, or Raviel from your hand or deck, ignoring their summoning conditions. And also has the ability that also monsters you control cannot attack for the rest of the turn, and you can only use the effect of this card once per turn, but you can also banish this card from the graveyard to add a Uriah, Haman, or Raviel from your deck to your hand, which is a great effect just to give you that additional search so you can get to the exact one that you need when you need it so you can go in for game. We then play 3 copies of the Dark Beckoning Beast. Dark Beckoning Beast is probably the best normal summon in the entire game because when this card is normal summon, you can add a Uriah, Haman, or Raviel, or one card that specifically lists those cards in its text from your deck to your hand, except another copy of this card. This card also has the ability that during your main phase, you can normal summon a Fiend monster with 0 attack and defense in addition to your normal summoner set, but you can only gain that effect once per turn. Great effect because you can actually search out your copy of Dark Summoning Beast off this card's effect and then tribute summon it out after you've already normal summoned this card to get the exact Sacred Beast that you want on your side of the field. We then play 3 copies of Chaos Summoning Beast. Chaos Summoning Beast is a great 3-of because it actually searches our field spell with the ability that you can tribute this card to special summon out a Uriah, Haman, or Raviel from your hand, ignoring their summoning conditions. And you can also banish this card from your graveyard to add a Fallen Paradise from your deck to your hand, which is a great effect to be able to grab Fallen Paradise because that card is an insane field spell. We then play 3 copies of Maxi. Maxi is incredible in Master Duel and just really a great card so you can keep drawing cards as your opponent special summons. And then 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is a great hand trap that basically stops the opponent from touching the deck. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing some extremely powerful spells, starting off with a single copy of Foolish Burial. Foolish Burial is to get the exact card that you need in the graveyard when you need it. We then play 2 copies of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is really good in this deck to be able to stop your opponent from hand trapping you, so you can go in for all of your really good plays. We then play 2 copies of the Map. Map is really good because at the start of the main phase, you get to add 1 monster with 0 attack from your deck to your hand, but half your life points after adding it to your hand. Until the end of the next turn, after this card was activated, you cannot activate the added monster's effects or effects of cards with the same name until you normal summon that monster or a card with its name. This card is really good because it can add any of the beast monsters that you have in your deck from your deck to your hand, which is really good because they all have 0 attack, which is great for this card to be able to search any of them that you need. I only played 2 copies of this card because this deck is already about 42 cards, so I did bump this card down from 3 to 2, and also you don't want to draw into multiple copies of this card, so I ended up bumping it down to just 2 copies. We then play a single copy of Dimension Fusion Destruction. Dimension Fusion Destruction is an insane fusion spell that has the ability to banish from your hand, field, or graveyard the fusion materials that are listed on a Phantasm Fusion monster, and then special summon that monster from your extra deck, ignoring its summoning conditions, and you take no battle damage from attacks involving the monster special summoned by this effect. And if you control a Uriah, Haman, or Raviel, you can have the effect that your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to this card's activation. That is an insanely powerful effect that you can basically just fusion summon out your copy of Armityle with this card. We then play a single copy of Cerulean Skyfire. Cerulean Skyfire is a really good continuous spell card for the deck that is just a really good negate because it has the ability to special summon out Haman with its procedure. Then you can also use face down spell cards that you control, and then once per turn, when you control an attack position Haman, then you can negate any spell or trap activation that your opponent activates and then change Haman to defense position if you control it in attack position. And if a face-up Uriah, Haman, or Raviel that you control leaves the field, then you take no damage this turn, which is a great effect. We then play 2 copies of Fallen Paradise. Fallen Paradise is basically a field spell version of Pot of Greed with added effects that has the ability that your opponent cannot target Uriah, Haman, or Raviel, or even Armityle in your monster zone with card effects, and also those monsters cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects either, and then while you control them. And if you control a Uriah, Haman, or a Raviel, or an Armityle in your monster zone, you can draw 2 cards, which is a really good effect just to help you dig into the deck to get the exact card that you need. We then play 3 copies of Opening of the Spirit Gates. Opening of the Spirit Gates is really good because when this card is activated, you can add a Uriah, Haman, or Raviel, or 1 monster that specifically mentions those cards in its text from your deck to your hand. And then once per turn, you can discard 1 card to special summon a Fiend monster with 0 attack and defense from your graveyard. And once per turn, if you control a level 10 monster, then you can add a continuous spell from your graveyard to your hand, and you can only activate 1 of this card per turn. This card is a really good 3-of in the deck that you're always going to be searching from the deck. And it's just a fantastic card. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to be playing some extremely powerful traps in this deck, starting off with a single copy of Hyperblaze. Hyperblaze is to make your copy of Uriah absolutely massive, and it's just a really good 1-of in the deck to special summon out Uriah using its own procedures. You can also use face down trap cards that you control, and then once per battle, when an attack is declared involving Uriah, then you can send a trap card from your hand or deck to the graveyard, and its attack and defense becomes the total number of face up trap cards on the field and in the graveyard times 1,000 for the rest of the turn. And then once per turn, you can discard a card and then add to your hand or special summon a Uriah, Haman, or Raviel from your graveyard, ignoring their summoning conditions, which is a crazy good effect. We then play a single copy of Vanity's Emptiness. I cannot believe I'm actually saying we're playing Vanity's Emptiness again. This card is absolutely insane in Master Duel because neither player can special summon monsters, and if a card is sent from the deck or field to the graveyard, you destroy this card. This card is great in the deck to be able to basically lock down the opponent after you make a 4,000 attack point monster on your field, and then you just activate this card, and usually your opponent can't out it, so they have to deal with it while not special summoning. We then play a single copy of Imperial Order. Imperial Order is really good to flip after we've gone into all of our plays that we're going to need to, because it negates the effects of all spells on the field, which is a really good effect in this deck. We then play 3 copies of Awakening of the Sacred Beast. Awakening of the Sacred Beast is a really good 3 of in the deck. I did consider bumping it down to 2, and if you guys would like to get the deck closer to 40, you definitely can bump this card down to 2, but it has the ability, it gains these effects based on the number of Sacred Beasts that you control with different names. And the effects are that if you can only control 1, each time your opponent normal or special summons a monster, you gain life points equal to the attack of the monster or monsters. And 2, you negate the activated effects of monsters that your opponent controls, or if you control all 3, any monster sent to your opponent's graveyard is banished instead, and then once per turn, if you control a level 10 monster, you can add a continuous trap from your graveyard to your hand, which is a crazy awesome effect. We then play 3 copies of Skill Drain to round out the main deck. Skill Drain is just absolutely insane in this deck to be able to make a 4,000 attack point monster like your Raviel or Haman, and then go in for game while also locking down your opponent's monster effects, which is really good. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing a single copy of Armital, the Chaos Phantom of Fury. This card is really good because this card just takes a copy of Uriah, Haman, and Raviel to make this card. And this card's name becomes Armital, the Chaos Phantom while on the field. And then once per turn, during the main phase, you can give control of this card to your opponent. And then once per turn, during the end phase, if this card that was control was changed this turn, you can banish all cards that you currently control by the owner's control, and then special summon an Armital to your side of the field from your extra deck, ignoring its summoning conditions, which is really cool because basically you just make this card, give it to the opponent, and then during the end phase it banishes all their cards, which is really good. And I love that card's effect, that if this card's control was changed this turn, you banish all cards that you control, which is really cool. And then the owner of this card just gets to special summon Armital, which we're playing a single copy of Armital that just basically goes to 10,000 attack points, which is really amazing. It gains 10,000 attack points during your turn only. But if you get the effect of Phantom of Fury off and you banish all the cards that your opponent controls during the end phase and then summon Armital, you can basically just go into battle phase and attack them with Armital for 10,000 to win the game. We then play a single copy of Ravenous Tarantula. Ravenous Tarantula is just a good rank 10 monster to make because all monsters that you control gain attack and events equal the difference between your life points and your opponent's life points. This card comes in very handy if you put the map on the field and you half your life points. This card is just absolutely incredible because it can make your monsters even bigger than they already are. 1 copy of Gustav Max just to help us close out games because you just have to use the ability to burn your opponent for 2,000. 1 copy of the Rail Cannon because you can make it on top of Gustav, and it also is a really good monster to attack multiple monsters on your opponent's side of the field to go in for game, and it also goes up to 6,000. We then play a single copy of Double A Zeus. Double A Zeus is really good just to board wipe the field. It's a fantastic boss monster in the deck, and it's super easy to make a 4 material Zeus in this deck. You just use 2 of your Sacred Beasts to make your copy of your Gustav Max, then make Juggernaut Libby, and then attack the opponent, and then main 2 make Zeus for a 4 material Zeus. We then play a single copy of Access Code Talker just to be able to pop cards on the field. This card is really good in the deck to be able to just pop all sorts of different cards that your opponent has on the field to go in for game. 1 copy of Unicorn to spin stuff, Phoenix to pop spells and traps, Pentastag because you can go in for piercing damage with the monster that this card points to, which is very handy. 1 copy of IP Masquerena. IP Masquerena lets us go for a copy of Unicorn. 1 copy of Anaconda so you can make your copy of your Armital super quick in this deck. 2 copies of Alamirage. Alamirage is just really good because you normal summon out a bunch of monsters that have 0 attack points, and this card helps get into the graveyard. And finally, a single copy of Linkuriboh. Linkuriboh is a really good 1-of in the deck because you do summon out level 1 monsters in the deck to get them off the field while also giving you some battle protection. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a really awesome deck to play around with in Master Duels. I highly recommend that if you've not played with Sacred Beast, you definitely should because it can lock down your opponent while also summoning out 4,000 attack point monsters like crazy, which is just really fun to do. So anyways, guys, that's it for this one. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Definitely tell me what you think of this deck down in the comments down below, and tell me what other decks you'd like to see me make for Master Duels. And we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.